growing up. What was life like for you?
So I'm the oldest of five. We grew up on the north end of Columbus in like the Sharon Woods area. And between myself and my youngest sister, who there's only 7 years between us. So 5 kids in 7 years. It was very loud in my house. Um, it was pretty crazy. My mom was stay at home until my youngest sister got into kindergarten, and then she started working in Columbus Public Schools, where she was for, I don't know, 20 years. And she recently like transitioned over to Nationwide Children's. But um yeah, so it was just we were always into stuff and sports all year round. It's there's 4 girls and 1 boy. I'm the oldest. My brother is right after me. Then we have twin sisters who are a few years after me, and then my youngest sister is 7 years younger than me. So um, it was just always controlled chaos, I guess. I graduated from DeSales, so we went through Columbus Public K through 8, and then my brother and I, because we were so close to DeSales, we had some friends that were going there, and the school that we were slated to go to just was not exactly where we wanted to be, especially with regards to sports. So we did like the summer work program, waxing floors and stuff at DeSales, so we could go to the private school for high school. So that's where my brother and I went, and then my younger sisters all went to Westerville Central, but because my parents had moved. So yeah, I mean, growing up was just a lot of like riding bikes all around our neighborhood. It just felt like a very different time, right? I feel like anybody
Yeah,
growing up in like the 90s, it's just very different than it is now, where we
yeah,
just kind of like ran amok in our neighborhood and just kind of had free reign. And now it's very different. But
right, right. What
um,
um, what sports did you play?
I swam. Well, I had a very lackluster and very short-lived career in basketball when I stopped growing at 5'6" and was not very good. And then when I got to high school, it was, do I continue to try to spit this square peg through the round hole of my not so great basketball? So I focused on swimming because I've been swimming swimming competitively since I was 5. So I swam competitively at DeSales. And then when I graduated, it was kind of one of those things like, oh, do I still try to swim after that or not? But there were a lot of other things going on. So right when I graduated, I ended up joining the Air Force. And the reason why I joined was kind of hilarious, but I come from a big military family, but I never really, none of that ever really spoke to me. I honestly thought that everyone was a little weird for, being all gung ho and whatnot. But I found out I didn't get the full ride I really thought I needed. Well, I needed it to get to go to OSU. And the day I found out I didn't get the scholarship that I needed, they were having the ASVAB, which is the entrance exam for the military, in my high school library. So I asked my first period teacher if I could go take this test, and I scored a perfect on it. So all these like recruiters were beating down my door. I didn't tell my parents I took the test, and almost I delayed it. It's called a DEP program, a delayed entry program, because I was only 17. So I was depped in with the Navy, and they let it slip, I don't know, 2 or 3 months before I graduated, that I would have to chop off all of my hair at boot camp. So I was like, yeah, it's not going to work for me. And my recruiter was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is and I was like, yeah, I don't think so. And I literally went right next door to the Air Force recruiter
Oh my gosh.
and was like, so what can you do for me? And
Look, I gotta keep the hair. So what,
yeah, I don't want to chop my hair off, but like, I want school paid for.
yeah.
Can you get that for me? So that's what I ended up doing, I joined the Air National Guard. So I was out at Rickenbacker, the air refueling wing here in central-ish Ohio. It's down in
Yeah.
Obetz. But so when I graduate, excuse me, when I graduated to sales, I went to boot camp instead of going to college that first year. So I went down to San Antonio and then went to tech school, and then I came back probably, what was it, like 6 months after I left and everything, after graduation. So I started Ohio State late, and with the Guard, it's like the one weekend every month, but 2 weeks a year type deal. But this was in 2005, so things were still very hot and heavy in the Middle East. And my first
Right.
deployment was less than a year after I graduated high school. So I was in Kyrgyzstan and then came back, went back to school, started playing rugby at Ohio State. So then I kept deploying, like every 18 months I would deploy. And I finally was able to graduate in 2000, what was it, 10? So 9, 10, sorry. And if you take all my deployments out of it, I would have graduated just shy of
Yeah,
4 years. So I was still on track. Like I was taking full course loads as soon as I would come back from deployment. I was going to school full time. I was working full time. I was bartending and serving. I worked in a gym for a while as well. And then I would be at the base
yeah,
whenever I was home. So I'm used to this like constant just have a lot going on all at once. And when I graduated, I majored in international business and world economics, minored in Spanish, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with that. It was just like, now what?
well, and that's what I was going to ask you, because you kind of just made the decision to go take that test,
On a
in high
whim.
school on a whim.
Yeah.
Was And I'm curious because I went to, I graduated high school in '07, so I was at Ohio State in 2007, and you know, I don't know if this was how it was for you or not, but for me and my family, it was more of like implied, I guess, to go to college or go to the military, or there really wasn't like the just go join the workforce,
Yeah.
right? Like right out of high school. Um, but you saw that the military was a potential route to go in order to cover college.
Correct. Because
What was that?
my whole goal was to I was a 4.0 student. Like I was a huge nerd in college, nerd and jock. Like I worked out all the time, was an athlete, and I had a 4.235 GPA.
Yeah,
I didn't get a B until I went to Ohio State. And it was one of those things where it's like, I wanted to go to college. That was always kind of implied for me, but
yeah,
like neither of my parents graduated college. Um, I don't, it just wasn't that they
right,
worked and they worked really hard. We were, solid middle class, but there was always money struggles growing up, always. And, you know, I was terrified of going into debt. And I was like, I know I want to go to college, but I know I don't have $30,000 to pay for this and I don't want to take out loans. So how can I make this work? And the Guard was just like, as long as you do X, Y, and Z, jump through these hoops, blah, 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 we'll pay. And I was like, all right, bet. So when I came home and told my parents that I was going to join the military, my mom was like, okay, all right, let's do this. Let's explore this. But I mean, I had already talked to the recruiters. Like I did it all by myself without telling
right,
them, and then kind of dropped the bomb. And my dad was a little apprehensive, but my mom like grew up in a military family, so it was a bit more normal for her. But man, that night before I went to boot camp, I was like, maybe I made a mistake.
yeah. I'm sure. I'm sure.
But it's wild because like that one rash decision has literally shaped the rest of my entire life.
It's
So
interesting because there probably are a lot of those, and the reason why I love starting from the beginning is because there's usually something that happens as I've interviewed agents, on this platform. There's usually something that happens either early on in their career or life, right, that
yeah,
has had a big impact on their real estate career, or something along the way, either in college or their previous career, that there's that defining moment,
yeah,
right? For me, it was failing calculus and at Ohio State, which caused me to switch my major, which then caused me to realize that my major wasn't really worth anything. So then
yeah.
I got into real estate. you know.